Mayor Sherman,
Here.
Councillor Gravel, Councillor Klinkhammer,
Here.
Councillor Lindstrom.
Yep.
Councillor Spradlin,
Here.
Councillor Stroud,
Here.
Councillor Tyree.
Here.
All right, number 3, approval of the agenda. Had a chance to look through the agenda. Does anybody have any corrections or additions? If not, I'd look for a motion.
I move we approve the agenda of the regular meeting on May 9th.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councillor Stroud,
Yes.
Councillor Klinkhammer,
Yes.
Councillor Spradlin,
Yes.
Councillor Tyree,
Yes.
Councillor Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. Everybody's had a chance to look through the minutes for our meeting on April 25th, our last regular meeting. Does anybody have any corrections or additions? Not, I look for a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from April 25th, 2022. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Councillor Lindstrom,
Yes.
Councillor Tyree,
Yes.
Councillor Stroud,
Yes.
Councillor Spradlin,
Yes.
Councillor Klinkhammer,
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. Under visitors and delegations, we have donation presentations. It looks like we just have the Brush Chamber of Commerce present.
Thank you, United.
And United Way. So, oh, there you are. Let's see. Let's start with Chandra Jacobs. Do you want to tell us a little bit about United Way?
Thanks for having me. So we've been busy at United Way. We started a collective impact program in October of 2020, which basically is acting as a backbone for local collaborations and local groups that are working towards issues in Morgan County. So first we did an assessment. I believe we got 500 and some responses, and the top 4 needs were housing, childcare, healthcare, and access to food, which doesn't surprise a lot of people. So there was already a group working in food, and so we kind of stepped in and offered our support to do that backbone. That's the Food Coalition of Morgan County. And then we got fully funded for 3 years to do more work within food in Morgan County. And then we just recently got a grant for Housing Action Team. So that's super exciting, and we will be moving forward with that. And again, that's Morgan County wide. And then childcare is in the works, and healthcare is in the works. So that's the main stuff we've been doing. And then we still continue to support local nonprofits. We have 18 partner agencies that are all local nonprofits doing work in the community.
Wow, you're
awesome.
busy.
Yeah.
Very good.
And we have an open position also.
Oh.
Don't want to forget that. And we moved offices.
Where are you at now?
We are in the same building as the DMV.
Okay.
So we're on the south side that used to be 3M Trucking.
Okay.
Good to know.
And the open position is for the Food Coalition. So it's a food coordinator, so they'll be working with the food resources already in the community to coordinate and be that point of contact for people who are looking for food resources.
Thank you. Well, we have a donation for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we don't have anybody here from the library, so Matt Gordon with the Brush Chamber of Commerce.
Prepared a few words.
Very good.
Yeah. Although there's only a few this evening, the Chamber and the City have had a long-standing, successful partnership that we at the Chamber, and me especially, after working with the Chamber as an intern and getting to interact with many of you, by the way, pleasure to meet you, Councillor Tyree.
Nice to meet you.
We're very appreciative of that partnership with the city, from generous financial contributions to event support, volunteerism, the Colorado Main Street Partnership, and countless other ways. The city has worked to put the Chamber in successful positions over and over and over again, and we recognize it. And I want to say thank you guys so much for doing that. On behalf of the Chamber Board, all of the members, Mayor Sherman, thank you. Councilors, thank you very much. Monty Torres, the city department heads, and all city employees at the City of Brush have at some point in some way interacted with the Chamber and supported us in what we do. And we would be a shell of ourselves if we didn't have you guys as a part of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Got a donation for you.
Awesome. We'll put it to good use.
Thank you very much.
New jackets.
Okay. Next, we have citizen comments. Citizens are invited to speak to council on any item that does not have a public hearing scheduled. There's a 5-minute time limit per person. Unless otherwise noted, and use your time wisely, as you only get one opportunity. Does anybody have anything to talk about that's not on a public hearing for this evening? Doesn't look like it. Okay. So we will move into our management items. We've got our public hearing continued from April 25th, 2022. On our ordinance number 897-22, an ordinance amending the Brush Municipal Code by adopting Chapter 13, Article 7, watershed protection. So I will open the public hearing and start with a staff report from Monty Torres, our city administrator.
Okay, this is gonna be a short recap of the process, and I think we're all tracking that this is a continuation of our public hearing, the last meeting. The first thing is, just wanted to remind everyone that, we went through the normal processes and, published the notice twice. We've had 2 first readings, we've had 2 public hearings and 2 continued hearings. This is the second of those 2. And we've received a lot of feedback from property owners, other interested parties, and that feedback was both concerns, questions, as well as some support as well in regards to establishing the district. And we've received some letters of support, letters from attorneys, letters requesting to make some adjustments to the ordinance. And so a lot of those we have accepted and incorporated into the document that you have now. Also, we've had a number of property owners that have come in and visited with staff, primarily with Dale, talked through some of the issues and understanding the ordinance better, as well as making more recommendations. And City Council were offered a field trip to go out there and look at the actual area out there, the sand hills, and get more background in regards to the actual environment out there. And we also, as we went through this whole process, we made sure that we documented all the questions at each of the hearings. And then we vetted those in-house, and then we brought that information back to the City Council. And we've also had some requests from 2 of the property owners in regards to making the district a little bit smaller, which Dale's gonna talk about that in a moment, but we did agree to make some of those changes as well. And then one of our council members had requested, a copy of the history of the document, how it's changed, and so that's in the packet. We call that the red line version, although there are red lines and green lines and blue, but it shows all the changes in the document from the start. And I'm gonna turn it over to Dale to go over from our last meeting some of those comments and concerns. There were a lot of, we sat down, I think we had roughly 30 or so comments, questions, concerns, but a lot of them were just redundant ones that we already had answered in the past. So Dale went through and he's identified some that were maybe new or topics that we thought we need to advise council a little bit more on. And once Dale is complete running down those list of questions, I have one more thing to mention, and then I'll turn it back over to the council.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Monty. I'm not going to go through all the questions. I'm just going to highlight on a few of them, some of our responses to that. One of them was, what was the change to the north boundary of the map? At the time of the last meeting, there was no change to the boundary of that map. However, we did have we had property owners come in, and we visited a little bit about it and discussed what changes we could make with that. And I believe it was pretty much agreed upon that if we were able to take and move that northern boundary down 1/4 mile, that our hydrogeologist looked at it. He felt fairly comfortable that we could do this. And so we feel pretty comfortable as well. So this will be another property boundary change. And if you notice over here on that map, you'll see that there's, as far as the watershed protection district, it has been moved down that 1/4 mile. Keeping in mind that that other line you see and all those diagonal hatches in that area, that is the Water Quality Control Commission through the state of Colorado. That is their source water protection area. We don't have any say in that. That's what they determined that to be. So, and that was done mid-2000s. And so we did make a change to the north boundary. We shrunk our district down by a quarter of a mile. And so, and everybody felt that that would be comfortable and we can live with that. So, one of the questions that was posed to us is, if this has been going on for 30 years, why didn't the city buy land when you had the chance? Well, the city was not always aware of properties for sale in that area. And just because a property does become available, doesn't mean the city's always in a financial position to buy it. And so we have to look at being able to have the monies to buy that, as well as knowing that they're available. And so another good question that's been asked is, why are you trying to rush this through? And first of all, we're not trying to rush this through. We first started this process back in December of 1992. I mean, that's how long this has been looked at. We visited again in about mid-2000s, and we're at a point now where water is becoming a very valuable resource, and it deserves a great deal of protection, and that's why we're really looking at getting it finalized this time. You know, there's been a couple of false starts and it never did finish, so we'd like to just finalize it. Keeping in mind that as far as ordinances go, there's a lot of preparation that goes into it, just any ordinance whatsoever. You're well aware that you typically have a first reading, and then later on you have a second reading after it's been published, and then after that it becomes effective 30 days thereafter. So in terms of passing an ordinance, it wasn't rushed. It was on normal timeline. However, to the affected property owners, I can see how that felt that way. And so, but it has not been rushed. This has been ongoing for 30 years now. One of the other questions were, there's a winding road through the district, and anybody can have a spill on that road, so why are you subjecting everybody to what else can happen there? And that's not the case. When we shortened up the boundary on the south side, that road is pretty much out of the way. Even so, when a spill on a roadway like that would be an acute situation that could get cleaned up right away and probably not affect the quality of the water. What we're really concerned about is more of a chronic situation where you have something come in that has that potential of contaminating the groundwater. Energy production being one. If it's not done correctly, and it can be done correctly, if it's not done correctly, that's a long-term chronic condition that we're looking at, not an acute spill. And again, I want to emphasize that nobody would be responsible for what a third party did out there. We couldn't make the landowners be that way. So one of the other questions that we need to put out is, why not write this to protect against future development practices which may injure the water instead of the current practices? And that's exactly the way this ordinance is written. With the current practices that are going on on those properties are fully are good. I mean, it shows that we don't have any problems with the water quality based on current practices. And this is normal farming, ranching, agriculture. So one of the other questions that we had is, and so I'm just saying that the ordinance is written to look at future development practices. It's not what's currently happening. In fact, everything that's currently happening is still allowed. We have no business in it. So, and then one of them was, why not partner with the state and county on this? Well, obviously with the source water protection area that has been adopted by the Water Quality Control Commissions, they set up groundwater standards, and so that's what that did. The county has already stated that they would not police this area for us. So they're already on board saying they're not going to help enforce this ordinance at all. So that's why we can't partner with the county on that. Additionally, they don't have the funding, nor do they have the expertise in-house to look at what we would be looking at. So one of the questions, has the water quality deteriorated in the last 40 years? And there's been some constituents that have gotten stronger and some that have been going down. So we've had some, and they yo-yo a little bit. So there's been some fluctuation, but on the overall, the water quality has stayed fairly good. And so anything that's going on down there right now has not impacted the water quality. That's why we're not concerned with that, those existing agricultural and farming practices. One of them that really stands out is that you're trying to regulate land use instead of water protection. Well, unfortunately, the nature of trying to protect this water will necessitate at least some sort of land use. But it's not a overall complete comprehensive land use ordinance. I mean, we allow for a lot of things to happen out there that don't require any scrutiny whatsoever. Next, one of them is that there was a comment, I believe that came either in an email or a visit, but Morgan County Commissioners would like the city to pay for the analysis and the results of studies proving a land use permit will not harm the water supply if the permit is denied by city staff. Any type of future development that would have some sort of impact on the water quality of that aquifer, the state and the county will already require the analysis and the studies. And so with that,
Thank you, Dale.
thank you.
Thank you, Dale.
So I was gonna wrap up from the staff. You know, it's been a long process and, you know, some might say long, is too long, but I think it's really a good thing that we've taken all this time because overall now I really do feel it's a better document than what we started with. And that's because we've taken not only comments from the community, property owners, the council members, and we've also went back to our legal staff and asked them to double check things, triple check things, as well as our engineers. And we really do feel it's a better document than when we started. And from the city staff, we're recommending the council approve this ordinance. And that concludes our report.
Thank you very much. We'll go into public testimony. Members of the public have the opportunity to make statements either in support or in opposition to the ordinance. Anyone addressing council must first come to the podium and please state your name and address before making your comments. Each party giving testimony will be given one opportunity to speak and must direct all questions regarding the ordinance to the mayor. Anybody have any comments they'd like to make?
You should get a punch card for this. Get something free by the end of it.
Brush bucks are.
Frequent flyer miles. Lance Ensley, 14844, Morgan County Road 29, Brush. Like to take an opportunity to begin with to recognize two city staff members who have been very reasonable and helpful to us. Ms. Packard as well as Dale. We've had good discussions with them and they were able to assist us quite well. We do appreciate the boundary being moved. Still don't quite agree with it, but it's land that we can live with. As stated in my previous comment, we will not allow farmland to be into the deal. So yes, we do appreciate the staff members helping us. Still not in complete agreement, but it's a deal that we're willing to live with if we have to. So that being said, I'd still like to see a paid easement on it. That's beyond our control right now, but just wanted to recognize the staff members and thank them for their help.
Appreciate that, Lance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Sorry, I'm late. Gordon Westoff, 20038, County Road 19.5. I appreciate what you guys have done. It's been a long process. There's just one question, the burden of proof. I think I sent Miranda an email about, you know, the farmers and ranchers out there. If you guys deny, the city council denies the permit, the question to me, from me to you is, I don't know if anybody up there on the board is a hydrologist or a geologist, but if you deny the permit because it's gonna harm the water supply, my question is, could you work together with the landowner, since they don't have the funds, maybe they don't have the funds, I don't know, to see if it is going to contaminate the water supply? Because they're not hydrologists, they're not geologists. So my question to you guys would be, would you help support the landowner, you know, approve the fees for that process? So that they can you know, the burden of proof is actually on them that they're not gonna harm it, but you're saying that they could harm it, so it works both ways. So could you kind of work together with them to find out if it is or isn't? But take that into consideration. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Gordon. Anybody else? All right, we'll go to final questions for, does council have any questions? And I guess I will, do you want to address, I guess Gordon, Dale kind of addressed Gordon's question. Yep. Do you want to?
You want me to restate?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that would be good.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. One of the things that we talked about earlier was, okay, that this comment was made about we're trying to regulate land use instead of water protection. And so, again, the response to that is that the nature of water protection is going to necessitate some, but not complete land use. And so, yeah, that's just kind of the nature of why it happens. Then we also look back at why not write this to protect against future development practices which may injure the water instead of the current practices. And we feel that this is the ordinance is written this way. Just to restate our case is that current ranching and agricultural activities out there are permitted, do not require permits, I should say. They're allowed. And so we're not trying to stop anybody from continuing to do what they've always done. And we want to stress that. And finally, to address Commissioner Westhoff's comment is that whenever there is going to be a project big enough that's going to protect against future development practices which may injure the water, then existing county as well as state regulations are already going to require this analysis as well as these studies. And so anybody wanting to do that kind of activity that could impact our water quality, they're already going to have to get these analysis and studies done prior to even the state allowing it, much less the county. So I think there's that safeguard that is there already. And anything else, you know, speculating about what could happen in the future is just going to be that speculation. But we're not here to hammer anybody. We're here to get along. And so anything that we can do to help our neighbors to the south in a situation where this may occur, I think that we have that ability. So.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Dale.
thank you.
We have the ability on a case-by-case basis to make that decision, to maybe have like our water engineer look at something on a
Yeah.
case-by-case basis, correct?
Yes, at any time, if someone wanted to come in and they had a project that they were looking at, we always have some consulting funds available to look at something in particular. So it depends on how far you go with something. You know, we can give a cursory review of a project and give some of our concerns what those might be. We could potentially have our consulting engineers look at something. But then the offset or the risk is that what if we do say, hey, there's a risk to something that we need to see somehow mitigated, then it's up to the others, the property owner of the project to demonstrate that it won't affect it. Because they could say, we don't think it's gonna affect the water, but our engineer could say it could affect the water. So there's still two sides no matter what. But if someone wanted to come in and ask questions, you know, we could definitely look at those projects and put an engineer on it to get a quick review of that.
So it's not just gonna be uneducated people making these final decisions. We've got people that we can consulting. So,
And a lot of the bigger projects, there's gonna be engineering done regardless. I mean, it's just gonna be
those
required.
reports are already begun.
Yeah, if it's requiring state permits, they're gonna require some of those. And then county has permits also that have to be done, and it's the burden of proof is the county has the property owner demonstrate that. So it's very consistent with how the county operates.
Any other questions from council?
I don't have a question per se, but I was thinking through this the past couple of weeks. and I kind of have a bad taste in my mouth. So you're just talking, Monty, about how, you know, this has turned into a good document because we're working with people. And good, it's, I was reading through it again a couple more times today, and it is far better than when we started. But it rubs me the wrong way, I guess, in retrospect, that our initial thought was, okay, well, here it is. We haven't coordinated, we haven't worked with anyone. It's, we came as, here's a hammer, deal with it. And I think this is helping us burn bridges, the way we started this. And I think if we would have began this differently, we would have had a whole lot less fighting. And those guys are here, some of them are probably just here because they're pissed off because how we treated them. Not, you know, we started off on the absolutely wrong foot. And I have a problem with that. Because, you know, we don't know any better. We're just like, here's the thing we're gonna do. That sounds like a good idea. We don't frickin' know. So that's just been rubbing me the wrong way this whole couple of weeks. So I wanna make sure that gets out there. Just because, again, it doesn't need to be like this, and we're making it that way. Going back to this specifically, I don't super love keeping going after we change things. That's just me, but it feels like a good way to get ourselves in trouble. And again, you know, that's just gonna be more negativity from our community of property owners, the county. I don't love that. Furthermore, crap, I forgot the furthermore. Give me a sec, it'll come back to me.
I honestly think the way that this started off was the only way it could have started off. You gotta release the ordinance to get the feedback. And I feel like the open meetings we had, you know, before we even sat down and looked at the ordinance, gave us a lot of positive feedback. And then I feel like trying to take as much public comment as we could on the issue, and then educating ourselves on the issue as much as we did, instead of just, because we could have, and this goes back to one of the comments from the last meeting where there was some concern that what if a future council denies a permit? Well, what if a future council would have brought this? You might not had the interaction, you might not have had the one-on-one, the back and forth.
That's true. And
they could have just gabbled this through with complete impunity and ignorance in the whole issue. And this is one that I've wrestled with back and forth a lot, because it's, like I said, it goes against everything that I stand for as a person, but I don't represent me. So I feel like it's been a pretty good back and forth. I feel like the comments we've gotten from the landowners have been invaluable, because they brought up things we would have never thought of. You know, I grew up on a farm, so. And I think, I've read through this thing probably 4 times in the last 3 days, and it really does, to me, try to exempt everything they're doing out there. And I know it's all in the eye of the beholder, and it could be misconstrued one way or the other in how you're reading it, but I feel like we've given a lot of ammunition to the landowner that they just, the best practices thing, the way that it says it's not all-inclusive to just what we consider the best practices, I think that really gives a little bit of power back to hopefully back to the landowners. And I hope this town stays agriculture friendly forever, and we never have to deal with this. But if we do, you know, I feel like they've got something to work with here, where had a different council brought this through, they might not have had any power to do anything with it. So I hope we've done our due diligence on it. And I mean, one thing about an ordinance, it can be changed. So if we run into a speed bump 5 years from now that we're like, hey, this isn't working, bring it back, let's work on it again. Nothing's saying this has to be set in stone, and we'll see, we'll just have to hopefully learn from it. We've learned from countless ordinances since I've been here that have been passed years ago that we've changed. I feel for the better, that have loosened things up, so, it's a living document. It can move and flex and try to fit exactly what needs to happen inside it, so. I appreciate all the work from staff on all this. Tremendous amount of work, so that's all I got.
Any other questions?
I agree with everything he said.
I would look for a motion to either close or continue the public hearing.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? I just want to say, I agree with Justin. I think, like Kevin said, we did just kind of throw it out there, but when I say we, I mean, it wasn't just us coming up with this stuff. We had engineers, our attorneys, and, so every question that came out, we're not farmers, we don't know. So educated people have been working on this document for us, and I feel like they've done an excellent job with everything we've thrown at them. And I think hopefully it's something we can all work with, and like Justin said, it's a work in progress, and we will figure it out as, if issues come up. It will go to our engineers, it'll go to our attorneys, we'll make sure that what we're doing is legal, and the hydrologists and geologists, and, those are the people that we can turn to if we need to. So I would look for roll call vote to close the public hearing.
Counselor Spradlin,
Yes.
Counselor Tyree,
Yes.
Counselor Lundstrom,
Yes.
Counselor Klinkhammer,
Yes.
Counselor Stroud,
No.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. So next we have, this will be the second reading of this ordinance. If anybody would like to make that motion.
I move we approve ordinance number 897-22, an ordinance amending the Brush Municipal Code by adopting chapter 13, Article 7, watershed protection.
Second.
Okay. Any more discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Klinkhammer,
Yes.
Counselor Stroud,
Yes.
Counselor Spradlin,
Yes.
Counselor Lundstrom,
Yes.
Counselor Tyree,
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. Great. Next we have a public hearing regarding ordinance number 896-22, an ordinance amending chapter 10 of the Brush Municipal Code. I will open this public hearing with a staff report. Looks like probably Dan Krob, our city attorney, who's on the phone.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry I couldn't be there today. This is a ordinance that basically brings municipal law regarding tobacco use in minors into conformity with state and federal law. Moves the age from 18 to 21, and then it also allows our officers to handle new devices that have come up, like vape pens and stuff like that. That's a real brief overview. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. So we can have public testimony. Members of the public have the opportunity to make statements either in support of or in opposition to the ordinance. Anyone addressing council must first come to the podium and state your name and address before making your comments. Each party will have one opportunity to speak and must direct all questions regarding the ordinance to the mayor. Does anybody want to speak on this ordinance? All right, I will open it for questions from council. Does anybody have questions? It's pretty straightforward.
It's pretty easy.
Yeah, okay. So I'd look for a motion to close or continue the public hearing.
I move we close the public hearing.
A second?
Any more discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Tyree,
Yes.
Counselor Spradlin,
Yes.
Counselor Klinkhammer,
Yes.
Counselor Stroud,
Yes.
Counselor Lundstrom,
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. So now we have the second reading of ordinance 896-22. I look for a motion on that one.
I make a motion that we accept ordinance number 896-22, an ordinance amending chapter 10 of the Brush Municipal Code regarding tobacco.
Second.
Any Roll call vote.
Counselor Lundstrom,
Yes.
Counselor Strauss,
Yes.
Counselor Spradlin,
Yes.
Counselor Tyree,
Yes.
Counselor Klinkhammer,
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. Next, last meeting, we had a public hearing, for the subdivision of 110 Emerson Street and 422 Curtis Street. It was a petition filed by Clinton and Daniel McDonald. We did not have any action taken, so we need, a motion to either approve or deny this subdivision application or petition.
I move we approve the petition filed by Clinton and Daniel McDonald for subdivision of 110 Emerson Street and 422 Curtis Street.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Strauss,
Yes.
Counselor Klinkhammer,
Yes.
Counselor Tyree,
Yes.
Counselor Lundstrom,
Yes.
Counselor Spradlin,
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. All right, we've got some proclamations. The first one, we've got proclamation number 2022-6 in recognition of National Police Week 2022. I would like to have Counselor Tyree read this one aloud.
Yes, ma'am. Proclamation number 2022-6 in recognition of National Police Week 2022. To recognize National Police Week 2022 and to honor the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities and safeguarding our democracy. Whereas there are more than 800,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the 14 dedicated sworn members of the Brush Police Department. Whereas, since the first recorded death in 1786, nearly 23,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and been killed in the line of duty. Whereas, the names of these dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial, which was dedicated in 1991 in Washington, D.C. Whereas, 619 new names of fallen heroes are being added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial this spring, including 472 officers killed in 2021 and 147 officers killed the previous year. Whereas the service and sacrifice of all officers killed in the line of duty will be honored during the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund's 34th Annual Candlelight Vigil on the evening of May 13th, 2022. Whereas the Candlelight Vigil is part of National Police Week, which will be observed this year, May 11th through 17th. Whereas May 15th is designated as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of all fallen officers, and for their families, and U.S. flags should be flown at half-staff. Let us honor law enforcement officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community to have become disabled in the performance of duty, and let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes. Let us appreciate and support the courageous deeds of officers who risk their own lives and well-being every day. Therefore, be it resolved that the Brush City Council formally declares May 11th through 17th, 2022 as National Police Week in the city of Brush, Colorado, and publicly salutes the service of law enforcement officers in our community and in communities across the nation. Given under the hand of the mayor and seal of the city of Brush this 9th day of May 2022.
Thank you. Next, we will have proclamation number 2022 dash.
Do we have to vote?
Okay, so we need a motion to approve or deny this proclamation.
I move we approve proclamation number 2022-6 in recognition of National Police Week 2022.
Second.
Any discussion? I just want to say, I had to read this proclamation a few years ago at something we did, and I stood there and bawled the whole time I was reading it, so it just about made me cry again tonight, but yeah, we're very appreciative of everything you guys do, so thank you very much. Roll call vote.
Counselor Spradlin,
Yes.
Counselor Tyree,
Yes.
Counselor Lundstrom,
Yes.
Counselor Klinkhammer,
Yes.
Counselor Strauss,
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. Next, we have proclamation number 2022-7 in recognition of National Public Works Week 2022. I will have Counselor Spradlin read this one.
Proclamation number 2022-7 in recognition of National Public Works Week 2022. To recognize National Public Works Week 2022 and honor those serving our community through their efforts in water, wastewater, trash, streets, and stormwater. whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance in sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the city of Brush. And whereas these infrastructures, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas the year 2022 marks the 62nd Annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association, therefore be it resolved that the Brush City Council formally declares May 15th through the 21st, 2022 as Public Works Week in the city of Brush, Colorado, and publicly recognizes our Public Works and Utilities staff members for their hard work.
Thank you very much. Look for a motion on that one.
I would move to approve proclamation number 2022-7.
Second.
Any discussion? We would be in big trouble if we didn't have our Public Works Department, because they do a lot of stuff that most of us probably wouldn't want to do, so. So thank you, Dale, for everything you and your team do. Roll call vote.
Counselor Tyree?
Yes.
Counselor Stroud?
Yes.
Counselor Klinkhammer?
Yes.
Counselor Spradlin?
Yes.
Counselor Lindstrom?
Yes.
Mayor Sherman?
Yes. Next we have proclamation number 2022-8 in recognition of National EMS Week. I'll have Counselor Klinkhammer read this one.
I'm honored to read this one, as I used to be an EMT first responder back in Wisconsin for many years, so this is close to my heart. So, to designate the week of May 15th through 21st, 2022 as Emergency Medical Services Week. Whereas emergency medical services provide a vital public service, and whereas the members of emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas emergency medical services have grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventive medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine, and whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, EMTs, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of emergency medical services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishment of emergency medical services providers by designated Emergency Medical Services Week. Therefore, be it resolved that the Brush City Council formally declares May 15th through the 21st, 2022 as National Emergency Medical Services Week in the city of Brush, Colorado, given under my hand and seal of the city of Brush this 9th day of May 2022.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
For a motion on that one.
I move we approve proclamation number 2022-8 in recognition of National EMS Week.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have one. Can we discuss? Madam Mayor, Gordon Westhoff, 20038, County Road 19.5 Fort Morgan. Travis Freeman, our Emergency Medical Services Provider Director. We have given him the authority to kind of fill the positions and to keep the Brush ambulance barn staffed. Because we had it closed for one night, I believe it was Saturday night? I don't remember.
So we got that resolved.
Yeah,
That's good to hear.
so
Thank you very much.
let's hope it continues on. You're a past EMT?
Yes.
We have openings.
Yeah.
Travis is his name.
He's already got 13 jobs.
What's one more, right?
Yeah, it's definitely an important job, and we don't have nearly enough in our county, so, we we could use you, you know, if you wanna give up
What-
something else.
Kind of sidebar on this, what I was thinking the other day, because I did see my neighbor, pass away because we didn't have enough staff on, to take care of him right away when he fell. I think we should look at offering like a CPR class to the city, like, I don't know if that's an option where we have like the Red Cross come in and provide a CPR training and try to get more of our residents or our community to do that.
Travis is a certified trainer in CPR and life support, so contact Travis at the Fort Morgan Ambulance Service. Cause he does all the training at the college, and he does all the training for police, Fort Morgan Police, and the fire department, so. he
So
is
we
a
need to
trainer.
throw something else at him.
Yeah.
I know there are some classes through the hospital, but I forget how often. Maybe 3 or 4 times a year, they can't handle that many though, of course.
Yeah, it's just,
And we have, had the in-house trainings for a lot of our departments if they wanted to sign up for that. And then, we've also had the training, so CPR, first aid, I think AED trainings, we had those as well. And I think, we're actually looking at AEDs for all of our vehicles, one of the requests that's coming forth, just be better prepared.
thank you. All right, roll call vote on that.
Counselor Klinkhammer,
Yes.
Counselor Tyree,
Yes.
Counselor Lindstrom,
Yes.
Counselor Strauss,
Yes.
Counselor Spradlin,
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. Next we have, I need to get, I've decided to run for the CML Executive Board. There's an opening, Rick was on that board. And so there's an opening in the small municipality division. So I just need a letter of support signed by the Mayor Pro Tem. If you didn't want to, somebody else could
I'll
probably
think
do it.
about it.
What's the work to you?
But I think it would just be good to be a part of that board and be able to
Absolutely.
be on top of what's
Absolutely.
happening at CML.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
If you are all okay with that, I would look for a motion to approve that letter.
I make a motion to approve the letter to support Dana to run for CML Executive Board.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Lindstrom,
Yes.
Counselor Strauss,
Yes.
Counselor Spradlin,
Yes.
Counselor Tyree,
Yes.
Counselor Klinkhammer,
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. If I can. Thank you. All right, next we have finance.
I move we approve disbursements and payroll for April 26, 2022 through May 9th, 2022 totaling $343,511.64.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Strauss,
Yeah. Yes.
Counselor Klinkhammer,
I had a question, never mind.
Counselor Klinkhammer,
Yes.
Counselor Tyree,
Yes.
Counselor Spradlin,
Yes.
Counselor Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. All right, staff reports about Chief Boss. Chief, please.
Good evening. Sorry I was late this evening, but it is what it is. Just a couple things briefly. As Monty mentioned, about 2 years ago, I started building into the cost of new cars AEDs, and we're looking at trying to find funding to put them in all of our cars so that our officers are better equipped, especially in light of the EMS shortages, just another way to help the community. So that is something we're discussing. I was in training last week, and I would just like to extend a thank you to you guys for letting me go. It was hands down one of the best classes I've been to in many years, and I hope to bring back a lot of good stuff here to Brush. It was a law enforcement leadership class for small agencies. So everybody in the class is from a department of 50 or less. So very applicable and good stuff.
Was that the FBI?
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Yep. And then the last thing, just thank you for the proclamation. It means a lot.
Thank you very much. Dale Colrick, Director of Public Works.
Okay, just one item to bring up tonight, thank you, Mayor, is that we had contracted out with Martin Marietta Materials to do some repaving in the city of Brush, and it looks like Hospital Road and Mill Street will be done later this month. And so get it milled and repaved, and then we'll work on the striping after that. So, but it is part of the package, so we'll get that done. And so, be prepared, it'll probably be one day of each road will be milling, and then the next day will be paving. So this is not, now I can't control the construction schedules completely, but it appears the way it's shaping up, it's going to be get in there, get it done, and get out. And so, very happy with that.
Hopefully after
Okay.
school's out.
Okay, and thank you as well for the proclamation.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Will they, you said the end of the month, it'll be after school's out?
Yes, after,
Okay.
yeah, after school's out,
Okay.
yes.
Very good.
We'll do a lot of public education on it because there will be some detours and
Disruptions.
roads that are closed down, and we'll have to be prepared for it, but at least it's for a short period of time.
Yes. Okay,
Thank you, Dale.
thank you.
Joanne Goslink, Finance Director.
I have one quick item this evening. This last week, I got notification that our cigarette tax, which comes every month, last year when the state did the calculations, there was an error in their calculations and they overpaid us. So we will not be receiving cigarette tax for the months of April through August, and that amounts to roughly $2,000. Cigarette tax isn't as big a revenue as what it used to be years ago. Okay?
Thank you. Loranda Packard, City Clerk.
We have the council retreat slated for next Monday, May 16th, and so far we just have one council member that it sounds like either won't be able to attend or will be late coming in, and we have one staff member who will be gone. So we're working on accommodating that, and I'll talk more offline with the council member as well. And that's all I have.
Very good. Dan Krob. Dan, are you still there, our city attorney?
Thank you, Mayor, I am. I have nothing, but I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Anybody have any questions? Oh, you must be doing a good job. Got us all informed. Thank you, Dan. Monty Torres, City Administrator.
Okay, a few items. The first one, Dale's been working with CDOT on a project out on the interstate. And even though it's out on the interstate, out of our jurisdiction, they did want a letter of support to get a grant to help with the project. And they're gonna be repaving or with concrete, I believe it is, quite a bit of the highway, a couple miles of the highway or interstate. And they're gonna be doing some bridge replacements and improvements. And I've got a letter that I'm gonna give to Dale tonight so that he can send it off to the state, and hopefully they get that funding. One of the things that they're proposing is near the Hillrose exit. What exit number is that?
I believe it's like
90,
95.
95. They're talking about putting in a park and ride. And that way, if people want to meet someone and drive into Denver, you can park there. It's some state-owned property that's out there, so they're looking at doing that. And so that'll be a plus for our community. And also, we're going to check on this, but I believe one of the bridges that they're replacing, they're going to be widening the span of that bridge, is my understanding. We're going to double check it. But what our hope is that it's one of the 5 obstructions in the Beaver Creek Channel, and that's what's causing the backing up of the flood waters on the floodplain maps, which is making our floodplain really wide. We're hoping that those 5 obstructions, as we go through each one of those, hopefully over time it brings the floodplain narrower through the community, so it affects less properties. So that was one of the driving factors of that. Chief didn't mention it, but he did have a new police officer show up today.
Yes.
A seasoned veteran police officer, right?
Yes, I apologize for the oversight there.
And, but at a later date, we're gonna be bringing in all the new ones in. Also has one coming out of the academy on Saturday, I believe. And so we're excited about that. We're slowly, with Kim's help and Chief, they're slowly, and some of our officers, because some of our officers are helping out with recruiting efforts.
It's all Kim.
We're slowly building back up that department. Other thing I was gonna mention was we did have Matt Rodriguez start with the city of Brush. He's in the United States Navy, and he is an intelligence analyst from the military, and he's retiring from the military. And there's a program that allows for a Department of Defense employee, their last 6 months, they can come work for an entity and still be paid by the military, or by the Navy in this case. So they're gonna continue to pay his wages. We only have him for about a month and a half or so, because it took us a while to get enrolled into that program. And he's gonna be helping out a few of our departments over the next month and a half. And we wanna see how things go, and he might be a long-term fit for our organization. We're just gonna see how that all plays out. And last thing I wanted to mention was, there's gonna be a joint meeting between the Brush School District Board and the City Council at the next meeting. I haven't had a chance yet to draft you up some notes for that, but some talking points on it. And that will be at the beginning of our next meeting, so that, they don't have to sit around for the whole meeting and listen to everything. So they'll be front-loaded, and we'll have those discussions with the school board. And that revolves around some of the traffic issues around the secondary campus, and some of the city codes that were supposed to be followed, which has now created that situation. So we're gonna talk about that. And in the future, we do have it on our list, we just haven't got to it yet, is inviting the Rural Fire Board in and talk about some of the requests from the fire department. And I think one of the council members had asked about that not too long ago. So we'll invite the fire board, Rural Fire Board, to come in and visit with council, a joint meeting, and talk about funding and some of those requests. That's all I have.
How are we doing with Rick's stuff?
Community Development Director position, we actually put out a job offer today. Very qualified individual with some years of experience. We're just waiting to see if accepted or not. And then, if not, we have a second candidate that has experience as well. And we're keeping track of any of the projects that we're working on, and everyone's covering down. Dale on some, I think Miranda's helping with some as well. Not sure. Insurance, Joanne's taking care of that. Land use, I'm taking care of the portion of that as well. And we're just making sure everyone is addressed, and checking emails, and making sure that anyone that calls, they are covered.
Thank you.
Mayor and council reports. Do any councilors have anything to report or share? No? I got to go, today was a busy day. It's National Nursing Week. Nursing Hospital Week. So this morning I went to Ebenezer and had coffee with the neighbors and answered some of their questions. And they're pretty intriguing. They were intrigued. They had a lot of good questions, so that was fun. And then we did the proclamation at the hospital at noon, and there was a lot of city staff there. I think most of the police officers were there. I got to meet it was a new one, Pike?
Yeah,
Yep, I got to meet that one. And so yeah, it was just a lot of fun getting to do all that stuff. When we had Cinco de Mayo with the chamber at the park, and had Scott's tacos and tamales.
Just the tamales. I wasn't responsible for the tacos.
Oh, okay, well, somebody's tacos were good. But
Can't take credit for that one.
So if you missed it, I'm sure they will do it again next year. So. I think that's about all I have. If there's nothing else, I will adjourn the meeting, and we'll move into a work session.